All right, this video is primarily for candidates looking to apply for the position of Fire Lieutenant with the Cape Coral Fire Department. Again, the purpose of this video and the attached email is that we have information about this upcoming 2018 promotional test that I want to provide to you. Again, the information within this video and the dates associated are tentative and subject to change, and the information is subject to change as we continue to evolve in this process. We are very early on. However, that being said, I do want to provide you as much information as I can because I know a lot of you are eager to begin preparing for that process. So the goal for the exam process is to get the best person for the job. So our job is to provide a fair and even test and to award as many points as individuals earn. Our job is not to provide anything tricky or overly complex. We're not looking to provide a battalion chief test for lieutenants. So our job is to provide, again, a fair test that's going to assess that job. That being said, there are a few changes that are coming on this year. One of the things is the division has purchased a number of GoPro cameras. The tactical and practical exam will be videoed. We anticipate about 15 candidates looking at the lieutenant's position for testing for that position. So when you come in for your review, you're not going to watch your whole video or any of your video at all. That video is going to be used by the Division of Professional Standards to resolve any conflicts between scorecards and the grade. So if you say, hey, I was adamant that I said this, we'll be able to reflect back to that video. Our plan is that we'll have one behind you watching whatever the scenario is, and then we'll have in the front close to you watching you, also possibly looking at what you're writing or what you're saying. We haven't completely worked out where those cameras are going to be for lieutenant's candidates, but again, it's going to put an emphasis on the candidate verbalizing what you're doing during that exam. Again, if there is a situation where you don't agree with the resolve that the Division of Professional Standards comes up with, and you do decide to go forward with a grievance, then that video would be reused by the local's grievance committee to help resolve that conflict, if applicable. At the end of this testing process, the video will not be provided to all candidates. Again, we've consulted with our legal department, and this is exempt material because it's testing material under Florida Statute 119. That being said, the Southwest Florida Public Service Academy, or the Fort Myers Fire Academy as we know them, will be hosting our testing again this year. Of course, the CCFD will be working strongly with them to proctor that testing process. No CCFD folks will be grading, with the exception of the interview, but for the assessment center and the tactical, those will be outside assessments. But we'll be working with them on developing that test, and then also the proctoring and the instruction for that test. That being said, there's a number of changes to the lieutenant's position and testing for this year that are a result of collective bargaining agreement changes. Again, if you want to, you can go ahead and pause the video and print this out so you can go along with me through this document. Again, looking at the list of tentative dates, we're looking at February 2nd of posting the job. So that's when you'll be eligible to submit your application. You'll have to go in through the NeoGov process currently and actually submit an application. And then the job posting will close, so the last date to apply for the position will be February 15th. For the minimum qualifications for the position, again, these have to be met by the close of the posting date. So the first one here is you have to have a high school diploma and 30 college credits. So you're going to need to submit proof of that when you submit your application. That can be done by, if you have a college degree, just submitting proof of your degree, or if you have 30 college credits, you're going to need to submit proof by an official transcript of that information. Driver's license, again, everybody has the 3 years in the current position. That's going to be as of the close of the posting. So as of February 15th, you have to have at least 3 years as an engineer. You also, by that date, have to be eligible to act as lieutenant. per the job description. You also must have your FO1. Again, submit proof of that. With a number of people taking the engineer's exam, the number of people taking the lieutenant's exam and new hires, we are not going to go dig through your file to go find your FO1 certificate. If you want the position, it's incumbent upon you as a candidate to provide that to us. So see Target Solutions, see my file is not going to be acceptable. That's something that you as a candidate are going to need to produce to us as an applicant for this job. Moving on here, if somebody does fall short of the 30 college credit hours, you may submit to the fire chief a request to substitute that with a combination of training and experience. I think that would be the very rare occasion, but again, it's per the job description. It is something that candidates are eligible to apply for. So moving into the collective bargaining agreement, some of the changes: the education is now worth 10%. The written exam is worth 30%. The chief's interview is worth 10%. The assessment center is dropped to 10%. Time and grade is 5%. And to round it out to an even 100, the tactical scenario is 35% of the overall score. So moving into the education portion, which is worth 10% again. Again, you must submit proof of these education elements by either a certificate, license, diploma, transcript to prove that you have these education components. And again, they have to be put in at the time of the close of application. So if the application closes and you submit it in there 2 weeks later, doesn't count. It has to be in by the 15th as the tentative date sets. Now, when that posting closes is when that information has to be into us, because we're going to calculate it. FO2, Fire Officer 2 from the state of Florida, is going to be worth 2 points. Paramedic 2 or 3 is worth 2 points. State Paramedic or Paramedic 1 is worth 1 point, so you can get either or, you can't get both. State of Florida Fire Inspector is worth 2 points. Bachelor's degree is worth 4 points, and associate's degree is worth 2 points. Again, associates and bachelor's, it's an either or, you can't get both. That's a max total available points is 10 for education. Moving on to the written exam. Written exam is going to be 125 questions. 80 of those questions are going to come from the Fire Officer Principles and Practice, second edition from the IFC NFPA manual. Again, in here is the ISBN number in that on that paper, so you make sure you have the right one. I know, again, we had some issues last year with different editions, same editions but different printings that had some different information. So that is going to be one that you're going to want to make sure you get that right ISBN number. Also, you're going to have 15 questions from the department's SOGs. There's a list of them in there. I've worked with Battalion Chief Hawkins to make sure that we don't predict any of those are going to be revised in this period between now and the time that the test is offered. However, if there is a change to any of those, the test is going to be based off the information as it sits right now. I'm not going to ask you guys to try to come up and quickly change what you're studying if whatever it is right now is the way it's going to be for the test. All right. Also, you're going to have 20 questions from the collective bargaining agreement from the union contract, and at the current edition as it sits now, and also within that 20 questions, some questions out of the rules and regulations. Again, I get a lot of questions about the rules and regs. There's some fluff in the rules and regs. Again, it's all fair game. I would say that, and same thing with the union contract, we're not going to be asking questions that are something that is beyond about compensation. We're not going to be asking questions about some of those things. I would say that the questions out of the union contract are going to focus more on grievance procedure, leave time, some of those other exchange of duty issues. As a company officer, we would expect that our company officers have a good working knowledge of this document. Again, as a representative of the chief's office, we would like lieutenants to be able to navigate those waters and prevent issues from becoming larger. Kind of the same thing here in the rules and regulations. Again, look, if you're trying to put yourself in our seat, what are we looking for a good lieutenant? That's the questions we're going to try and ask. So again, some of the same things here about good policies, good behavior for employees, and what do we expect our lieutenants to be doing. That being said, you're also, a new addition this year is we're going to be adding 10 questions from Leadership on the Line. This is a good book. Again, the ISBN number is in there. We're not asking you to review the entire book. We're just going to ask you to do pages 1 to 160. 1 to 160. That'll be I think the first two or three sections of the book. This is more of a leadership theory book than it is a tactics book. So for the for the written exam, you're going to have a 70% to pass the test. If you don't get a 70%, you're going to be it's going to be considered a critical fail, and you're not going to make the final list. If somebody has a 65 or lower, you're done. You're not going to move on to any additional testing. If you have above a 65, a 66 or higher, you're still going to move forward in the testing. And the reason that is that if the most I've seen is a question or two get thrown out. So this gives us a little bit more of a grace area that we're still going to let somebody come through the testing. However, if somebody doesn't achieve that high of a score, we have a lot of people coming through the test where we won't move people forward through it from that. That being said, if there is an area in the test that comes down, there's conflict between one of these documents. The first and foremost is going to be the collective bargaining agreement. Then it's going to be our CCFD policies, and then it's going to be the textbook. And so if there's conflict in any of those, that'll be the order that those things are resolved in. If you come to a question that does have conflict between the documents, that would be the answer that you would want to answer them in, would be based off of which area they're coming from. I'll call them later. Going on to the Chief's interview. Sorry, I have Chief Demos in here with me too. Chief, did I miss anything?
No.
All right. All right, no more phone ringing. So, Chief's interview. Chief's interview is going to be 10%. It's going to be a panel interview consisting of 10 questions. Anything's pretty much fair game in this. We've been through a number of these interviews. I would also say I would read some of the existing material that could possibly be used in that. Anything is, again, is fair game for that, but it's a 10-person panel interview question. The assessment center. Lots of questions on the assessment center. This is worth 10%. We were trying to evolve this a little bit. The conflict resolution area seems a little inconsistent with what we've been trying to do. So this area is going to include, it could include some elements of conflict resolution. It could involve a teaching scenario. It could involve some administrative skills that you might have to execute as a lieutenant. Again, I would reinforce that this assessment center area is going to be one that is going to be something that a lieutenant would be expected to do in the street, whether it be creating a report, working with employees, teaching new firefighters or citizens. It could be a variety of things, but it would be well within the scope of what a lieutenant would be expected to do. Moving on to time and grade. Time and grade is 5%. Again, this is going to be calculated at a quarter point per year with a max of 20 years. That's going to be based off of the post-closing date. So 6 months in 1 day is going to be rounded up to the next full year. And then again, that's based off of that post-closing date, which right now is looking like February 15th. Moving on. The last section is the tactical scenario. Again, the tactical scenario is going to be well within the scope of what a lieutenant's expectation is for tactical operations in the street. There are going to be critical failures. They're going to be big and broad, and it's going to be somewhat dependent on what the scenario is. However, as a general statement, they're going to be things like unsafe tactics. They're going to be failure to activate needed resources, failure to establish a water supply if that is an applicable task in that evolution, and a failure to keep accountability. So we're looking at large glaring issues that we need to have addressed on a tactical level. Again, looking at the dates, you would have the job posting on February 2nd to the February 15th. Then we'd have a candidate meeting on February 20th. Looking at the written testing being February 28th. And then the practical exam occurring on March 1st and March 2nd, with a candidate review following shortly thereafter on March 7th through the 9th. Again, we'd schedule dates based off of the shift that you're working, if it's applicable to get you in here, depending on Cali days, that kind of stuff. And then that would start our 10-day window for any grievances that could occur. And once that grievance window is closed, right now, if there's none or they're addressed within that 10-day frame, you're looking at March 23rd to conclude those grievances. And then the new list would be released March 26th. So that being said, again, I know there's going to be lots of questions. If questions are asked, we'll do our best to make sure that they get disseminated back out to all candidates or all eligible candidates, so that they know all the information isn't being fed to one individual. We're going to try and share that with everybody. Again, we'll have more information coming as things begin to solidify, but we hope this is a good start to get you started and start to prepare for this test. Chief Demos?
Very thorough.
All right. That being said, we look forward to it, and good luck.